Welcome to another special edition of the Monsters of Geek podcast. I'm your editor-in-chief and host, Aaron. With me today is one of my very good friends. We met in college and kind of our geeky loves for movies and video games and stuff. And it was just, we worked on the newspaper together, and it was an award-winning newspaper along with Reed Salomonsky. And we did a great job, had a lot of fun time. So with me today is none other than Daniel. So, Daniel, what's up, man?
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It really is. This is really cool. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really glad you asked me to help. So thanks so much.
Daniel, I gotta give you some props, man. We was talking a little bit before the show that you really took the E3 stuff and did some great work for us on the website there. I was preoccupied with Denver and everything else, and usually Andrew and I and Joe and Jared all kind of do stuff, but we ended up getting a little bit busy. So me and you kind of took some stuff, and you came up with a bunch of great ideas. So, but you did a great job there, man. So big ups. I mean, you did really much appreciated for that.
Well, thanks, man. I enjoy E3 so much. Like, it seems like, throughout the year, video game news is just like one thing, here and there, a few stories per week. But then E3 happens and it's just like explosion. You just get all these new games and all these stories and all these interviews. So it's just, for me, it's a lot of fun just to like sit and read and watch and just get excited about video games. So
yeah, about a month out from E3, man. I mean, we both probably listen to a bunch of podcasts, and we read Kotaku and IGN and all types of journalism as far as games go. About a month out, you really start really feeling the momentum. I mean, people start talking about what they've heard and industry insiders, and you got to watch to get too hyped up, or the whole show kind of gets disappointed because there's stuff that is supposed to show up and it doesn't show up, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it definitely this year, I was telling Jared and Andrew, I was like, I just feel like this year we have no big consoles or anything, but I'm really hyped up to see what games actually come out for this system. Because at least the last 2 years, I feel like we've talked about consoles and the games coming years after the console was released. But this year is the reality is that we've got some really good games coming out that's just around the corner.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's something we'll talk about. I mean, E3 had a lot of demos and stuff that I was kind of surprised to see, to be quite honest, as far as many gameplay, really live demos that they had. But before we get started, Daniel, overall impressions of the show, do you think it kind of, did it excite you? Was you a little bit disappointed, or did it just hit right on what you thought it was going to be?
I'd say it hit right where I thought it was going to be. I mean, there were some big reveals, which we knew, all happens every year. We always get surprised somewhere. There were some things that I missed seeing, which I'm sure we'll talk about, that, I wanted to see more of. I thought overall the press conferences were really good. But overall, I'd say it hit right about where I thought it should. So
I thought the same thing. I thought that there were some things that didn't show up that I thought was for sure would show up. I mean, there was some pretty strong inclination. We'll go ahead and talk about it. Let's get the disappointing stuff out of the way first.
Okay. All right.
We talked about, and you called it in your predictions for E3, that we would not see Final Fantasy VII, the remake. And you were right. And I think that you and a couple other people had called that maybe we wouldn't see anything after the big reveal last year. We saw some gameplay earlier in the year, but that was didn't really have been quiet since then. I mean, that was back in probably March, I guess, or February we saw that. And it's
right, it was a while ago.
Yeah, kind of done there. So, I know that probably didn't ruin the whole thing for you, but would you have liked to have saw at least maybe even that same thing, maybe someone with an actual controller in their hand playing it, even if it's we've already seen it? Was you a little bit disappointed? That I was disappointed we didn't get any news, like no release date, no timetable, no nothing on it.
I tell you, the reason I predicted that and why I felt that way is because it's such a big undertaking. They just announced it last E3, and I think even in my piece about last year, I mentioned that this game is a long way away. And I still feel that way. I mean, we're not going to see this game for a while, and I think it's it's just too premature to see anything from it. I mean, all we've gotten is just little trickles of news about how it's going to be a multi-part series, maybe even episodic. But I just really feel like this game is 3 years away, and it's just too early to even talk about it or really even worry about it. So personally, with that in mind, I have a hard time getting excited because I know that. I mean, who knows where I'll be in 3 years? I mean,
Right, right.
it may not even be on PS4. It may be on PS5 or Xbox Two or whatever. Who knows? So,
We
personally, I have a hard time getting excited.
Now we're big Final Fantasy. I think me, Joe, you, Jared are all big Final Fantasy fans. Andrew hasn't. I don't think Andrew's ever played it. He's a little bit younger than us, but he hates anything with nostalgia. So he's and if he's listening, he'll come on and defend himself. But yeah, so I'm the same way. I'm excited for it, and it's always that initial excitement, and then you kind of find out. Same with Kingdom Hearts. Like there was no talk of Kingdom Hearts either. And those are two games that we kind of grew up on. Final Fantasy VII, and you got Kingdom Hearts on the obviously Final Fantasy VII on the PS1, maybe the core title for that, and then you had the Kingdom Hearts series on the PlayStation 2 that really kind of defined what that system could really do. It just kind of stinks. I'm like you. After that initial excitement wore on, they didn't really say anything about when it was released. You kind of got to pull that reins back a little bit. I hope that maybe we see this, maybe the first part in the first maybe 2 years. I would like to see it. I know it's been pretty much confirmed that it's going to be, chapters of games, and they're going to be full gameplay. Now, I don't know if that's 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours. We all know that game could go well over 100 hours if you really, really wanted to, and they're adding stuff to it. So I don't know how much more hours you could get out of that. And I'm sure every one of us is going to play all of those hours because of how much we love the series. But I was a little bit disappointed that both of those games really didn't get any release date or release information.
I will tell you, as long as we're on Final Fantasy, I was disappointed that Final Fantasy IX didn't get announced for PS4. It recently came out on Steam, just like Final Fantasy VII did. The original port. And it wasn't long before they brought it to PS4 with trophies, which is awesome in my opinion. So I was really expecting to be able to play Final Fantasy IX again with trophies, and get some nerd cred for playing that. So I was a little disappointed that that didn't get announced. I feel like that's still coming, but who knows when that'll be. So
we did know before the show that they're going to do at some point next year release Final Fantasy 12, the HD remake. So. You've got a lot of Final Fantasies to play with, and those games. Let's just be quite honest. Even the back in the 8-bit and the 16-bit, they've been redone, they've been re-released. So, I'm like you. 8 and 9, I would like to see at some point get that Final Fantasy 7 treatment like they did, and put some trophies and everything in it. Because man, I mean, if we had trophies in PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, I mean, we would have scoured everything, especially with Final Fantasy 7. Like, those things can get addictive, and especially with a game that's so fun like that. So, I'm with you. I was a little bit surprised that maybe that wasn't announced as well, but they've been pretty good about putting those out. And you got to give it up to Square Enix, I guess now, for thinking about us old dudes, and giving us some cool stuff to look forward to.
Right.
There was one disappointment that I was because I really did think this was going to happen because of some of the stuff that had leaked and it had been confirmed to be a real map. But I was really, really disappointed that we didn't get Red Dead Redemption 2. I thought for sure this was going to be the year, especially with 2K kind of coming back on the floor. It was announced early in about February or March that they was going to be there for the first time in a couple years, which obviously brings Rockstar with them because that's their that's their parent company. I was really disappointed. I love that game. It's one of my top 10 games of all time. It's just so good. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't. No game. I don't think any game has ever been perfect, but I really thought that this was going to get a release date, or at least, hey, we're doing this, or maybe even an HD remake of the original or something that I thought would be announced. But if you didn't know the story, there was a map released. It was a bigger map from the first one, and it was pretty much confirmed it was real. And ever I thought, oh, Red Dead Redemption 2, woo, going to come out. And nothing, no announcement at all. Daniel, did you play Red Dead Redemption?
Yes, yeah, I played Red Dead Redemption. I really enjoyed it. I actually earned the platinum in it, if I'm not mistaken.
I was pretty close. One of the few times I got pretty close.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that game quite a bit. And I haven't played a lot of like Rockstar games. Like, I don't really play the GTA games, but that was one that I really enjoyed.
Some other ones that didn't, like I said, I was really disappointed. After that, I was like, man, come on, you can't make a big thing about it and show up and not do something. Come on now. There's a couple, just a list that IGN kind of put out was Beyond Good and Evil 2, which has been rumored for going on 6 years now or something like
Yes,
that.
wow, yes.
Yeah, Crackdown 3, which we know is coming, but it wasn't really talked about by Microsoft. Dead Island 2, which has been in the works for a while. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, we talked about. Kingdom Hearts 3. Metroid Prime Federation Force, if anybody cares at this point. We know it's coming out, but we've seen stuff, so I don't think that's too big of a disappointment. Of course, No Man's Sky, which they've had some issues with. I guess GameStop was called and told to put coming soon over the release date on their stuff. So
Right.
We knew that was going to be delayed and probably not seen. Pokemon Go, of course, the iOS and Android game, which looks pretty cool, but we didn't really get much of that. And of course, Shenmue 3, the darling of Dreamcast lovers, which I tried to play the game. I don't think it's great, but don't send hate mail to Monster and Geek. I'm glad you got your game, but I don't really care. But that wasn't announced. Of course, that was the Kickstarter that Sony put out, and trying to get the sequel. And there's some discussion whether or not they would release the other two in HD at some point. That wasn't really talked about either. So, was there anything else in that list, Daniel, that you thought, man, I really thought that we were going to see some of that?
There wasn't anything else that came out that I was disappointed that we didn't see, but there was things that we saw that I was disappointed we didn't see more of.
Okay.
So like Mass Effect, I was really expecting a lot from Mass Effect, but what we got was some landscapes, like a very small trailer where we see like BioWare working on the characters, and we really didn't get anything about Mass Effect, so I was a little disappointed with that. There was one more that kind of disappointed me. Persona 5. I'm a big Persona fan, and I was really hoping that Persona would have a really big presence there. And I did get to see a trailer, but everything was in Japanese, and it looked cool from what we saw. It looked very stylish, but we really didn't get any info on it or any new information. Just basically got to see some new gameplay. So it was a little disappointing that we didn't get to see more of those two games, and those were two of my. I think those were on my most anticipated list, maybe. But
they were.
Those. I guess that was two of the things that really disappointed me. But mostly just because I'm big fans of both of those series.
One of the things that if we're talking about disappointment, I was really stoked, and I put this in my most anticipated list was Visceral's Star Wars game. Dead Space 2 is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. I love it. It's just everything about that game. Not perfect again by any stretch. Some people hate those games, but man, 2 just hit the chord with me as one of those defining PlayStation 3 titles, or that Xbox 360 titles. I was very disappointed that we didn't get more of that, because they had talked about Visceral. This is about 2 years ago that they were going to start working, because nobody really knew what they was going to do after Dead Space 3 kind of flopped. They kind of got away from it. EA kind of repositioned them to be like, hey, work on some Star Wars stuff. And we didn't get much of anything. We got maybe like a 0.2 second guy walking out from a door. Basically all we got from that, into some kind of desert, landscape. Visceral, I'm a big third person fan. I don't really like first person. Battlefield was good for a certain extent because I could do it third person, but obviously just multiplayer, and it looked great. So we know they're putting a lot of care into it. I was just a little bit disappointed that we didn't get any hint of what the game's going to be about. Like, what we know it's going to be somewhat of like a underground, or I guess in the more seedy underbelly of Star Wars. But that's about it. So I was really and to be quite honest, I was kind of disappointed with all the Star Wars stuff. Like, they didn't really do much of anything, minus telling us that Battlefield 2 was going to come out, sometime next year. So I was kind of disappointed. Star Wars was something, especially with how good Battlefield looked, and even though it was just multiplayer, it's fun for a while. It was a well built game, but I was kind of disappointed we didn't get much more from Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess I can see that, and so far, we really haven't seen. Ever since that EA really took over these games, the Star Wars games, we really haven't seen anything worth a whole lot. I mean, Battlefront, it was cool, but the value of it was very minimal in my opinion. I played it for a couple weeks and then I never touched it again. It wasn't enough to keep me playing. So, for such a great franchise to have so much you can talk about and to still not have a game that's as good as like Knights of the Old Republic,
Right.
is is surprising. But hopefully, with this plan that they've set out over what is it, like a 3-year plan basically,
something like that,
of games. Hopefully we can get a game that uses the Star Wars universe to its fullest. So that's my hope.
Yeah, I hope so. And I'm not one of those guys that, wants to see the Star Wars, franchise pushed out in every possible way, from pod racing to, fighting games and whatever else that LucasArts pushed them out, and really kind of dug a pretty good hole for Star Wars video games till Knights of the Old Republic really came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I say take your time, but I wish they just had more information. And I know that they're dealing with kid gloves. I'm sure Disney just doesn't, they want to make money off of this. They don't want crappy Star Wars games, which we'll talk about. Marvel wanting the same thing as far as what they want from their franchises. But I just want just a little bit more. Just tell me what it's about. Just a little bit more would have been nice. But whoever did the cinematography for that big thing talking about Star Wars, how much they love it and whatever, good job. That guy deserves a raise. But I wanted a little bit more stuff coming out. So
right.
But other than that, I thought it was a good show. I can't think of anything else that I was super. Well, of course, Mega Man Legends 3 wasn't announced, so I don't know what Capcom's doing. But you disappointed me for like the 8th straight year. You teased me with the 3DS. Hey, we're gonna do Mega Man 3 for the 3DS, and then Inafune left and made everybody at Capcom mad, and they trashed it. And then Mighty Number 9 sucks too. So my Mega Man, it's been a rough couple days for my Mega Man fandom.
Yes, it has.
Nothing. Other than that, I thought it was a good show. So let's talk about some of the bigger news of the show, and we'll get into some of our favorite games. But one of the big things, we'll talk about Microsoft a little bit, because I thought that they had a really good press conference. I thought everybody, besides EA, which their press conference was boring. It was just boring as sin. I tweeted, I was like, why do I want to take a nap? And then when the EA Sports stuff popped up, I was like, why do I have a certain urge to go pee? Because it was just a really bad press conference. And again, going back, Star Wars part of that, but they didn't really show much as far as the press conference. But I thought Microsoft did a pretty good job. I'm a PlayStation owner. Daniel's a PlayStation owner. Jared is a PlayStation owner, and so is Joe and Andrew. So we don't have much Microsoft, but I always want to kind of pay attention to them, because they're kind of the underdog right now. Well, minus Nintendo, but they're the second place guys, so they had to do a good show. So they really opened it up, and right from the bat, Daniel talked about the Xbox Slim. Now we've had some discussions on this podcast about whether this is a smart idea or a bad idea, whatever it is. What did you think about the Slim version of it? Do you think this is going to be their big seller as far as what they're doing? You think this gets them back in the race a little bit?
No, I don't think it'll have a big impact. I think the system itself was beautiful. I thought it was really, really nice, and I love that white. I just love the white anyway. I think it looks so much better than black. But I don't think it'll have a big impact. I mean, this is a redesign that really is all about. They probably can manufacture it a little cheaper. They have a little better products in it, processors or whatever. I'm not a tech guy, as you can tell.
Teraflop.
Yes. But I don't think it'll have a big impact. I think it may interest some people, but as far as it's not like it's going to win the console war for them. It's just something new that they can kind of push. But that being said, I did think it was very pretty.
The price point on that was what, was it $299 or $349?
I think it's running. I think it's if I'm not mistaken, it's the same price as the regular Xbox.
Oh, they're dropping the regular Xbox to $299, right?
Yeah, they're and if you, for anyone who's interested in an Xbox, they're basically fire selling like old Xboxes right now. I mean, you can get them for very cheap with multiple games and an extra controller. I mean, they're really trying to get rid of those. So if you're on an
GameStop, as far as trading value, GameStop went from like, what was it, 150-ish to 80.
Yeah.
So that tells you the pretty good price drop coming for those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course they talked about the Scorpio near the end, which is the big, basically Xbox, 1.5 or whatever you want to call it. You've got, I think what it said, like 0.6 or 6 point something teraflops, which is basically the processing power and graphical power and all that good stuff that goes on with that. Listen, I don't know anything about that. I just know that I think it's stupid, but we'll get Daniel's opinion here in a minute. So the Scorpio was announced, which is going to be a more powerful system, still going to be 4K, all that good stuff. Basically in Sony announced the Neo, didn't really talk about it. But this is Microsoft answer. We've had discussions on this about new systems. It looks like that console gaming is going towards that PC route where they're going to, maybe one day you can just switch out the parts and keep the case or whatever. Daniel, what do you think about this? I don't like the trend. I think it's dumb, but what do you think about the trend of releasing this, these half models or whatever that they're looking to do?
Well, I guess I'll start with, the fact, I guess I'm a little confused. And I think Microsoft runs the risk of confusing their audience. And this is something I talked about, I think, when I talked about the Microsoft press conference. But, you basically, in the same press conference, you talked about two new systems, the Xbox One S, I guess, which is for Slim, and then the Project Scorpio. And I think you run a risk of really confusing, the casual audience. I mean, we kind of know the difference, I guess, a little bit. But when a mom goes into the store to buy, the Xbox, and the Walmart guy has to explain the difference between an Xbox One S and the Xbox, the Project Scorpio Xbox. I mean, the casual person is not really going to understand the difference, and that's something I worry about for Microsoft is having basically two new release systems and now three separate systems on the market at one time, but basically all on Xbox One. So, that's what I worry about. That's where I think they're going to have trouble.
I'll be surprised to see at some point if we don't get an announcement that they stop making the first generation Xbox. I do think if they could just do two, like if you could do a Slim and you could do just like they did with like the Arcade Edition 360 and the the Slim Edition the Elite Edition, I don't mind two, and then you kind of break it down like, oh, this one is, you can play all the games, but this one does it a little bit better. That's basically what it is, in a nutshell. I agree with you. I think they're oversaturating a little bit. I think Sony's going to oversaturate it when they drop the Neo. I'm not a huge fan of this trend, and I know it's not going anywhere. One of the podcasts that I listened to even said that this is Microsoft working towards not doing a console anymore and just doing like a computer and basically tying everything in together with Windows 10 or whatever Windows they'll be up to at that point.
And that's exactly right. And you can see that with their new share play or play anywhere feature that lets you play Microsoft exclusives on Windows 10 and vice versa. They're really trying to combine their markets, which makes sense. I mean, I'm sure it's easier rather than having two separate markets, just to have basically combine it into one. Basically. Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense. As far as the trend as a whole, I mean, I get it. Technology is moving so quickly now in our lifetimes that a 10-year life cycle for a console is just not feasible anymore.
Right. It's not feasible. Right. Correct. Right.
Yeah. It just doesn't work. So I mean, I don't like it because we buy a console, we want to get value out of that. I've still got my PlayStation 2 plugged in, somewhere.
Me too,
I mean, yeah. So we want value out of the things we buy, but at the same time, I mean, we can't be surprised because both these systems, I mean, when they came out, were essentially outdated. I mean, they both shipped with 500 gigabyte hard drives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. And they were already being passed up. So I get it. I don't like it, but I don't fault them for doing it.
Well, I mean, the PC market has grown so much. I think it's what's really pushing it. I mean, gone are the days that you can have, Super Nintendo for 8 years or whatever, because you really don't. You just have, you just have the challenge of Sega, and that's it. Now you've got PC, you've got Sony, you've got Nintendo doing weird stuff and whatever. And Nintendo's a great example of someone that fell behind the times and really kind of screwed themselves a little bit. I love Nintendo. I love my Wii U, but let's just be quite honest, that was a disaster. for Nintendo, and even with the Wii, they was already behind because they didn't put the graphics towards it, and even though they sold billions of it, it just petered out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I hate the trend. I'm holding on to my PS4. Somebody said, what would it take for me to buy a Neo? And I said, when my PS4 breaks, because I'm not going out to get another console. And what I've seen, and the thing about it is those games that I've seen. We'll talk about some of our favorite games, but one in particular I won't say because I want to kind of save it. Is we found out it was running in game on a current PS4 and it looked gorgeous. And so I don't understand, like if they said, oh, this will run on the Neo, and this is then maybe I'd think about it, but it was running on a regular PS4. This hardware hasn't even been pushed to anywhere near its limit. And I just think that, I don't know, I don't like the trend, but it is what it is. I agree with you. I see why they would want to do it, but for me personally, I'm just, whatever. I'll buy one when my first one breaks.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
Coming on to the podcast, the one and only Yeti.
Joe Yeti is here in the house, making a very, I don't know if that was more Rock or Val Venus. I'm not sure what kind of entrance we had going on there, but he is here, and Jared should be jumping on soon unless he texts me and tell you he can't, but he should be on here too. Joe, we're just kind of looking at Microsoft, and I guess we can start with this question, and we'll start with Daniel first. Daniel, looking at Microsoft, I always especially when it's a system I don't own, coming away from the conference, is there anything that would make me buy the system? Was there anything because like I said, we all own Sony products. We're all PS4 guys here. Was there something that you saw Microsoft did? It was like, man, I may think about getting an Xbox for that game or this feature or whatever. Was there something there at that conference?
There really wasn't for me. I mean, I didn't see anything that personally I had to have an Xbox for. There was a lot of games that I could see as an Xbox person that you could get excited for, like Gears of War. I talked some about We Happy Few. That looks really cool. But nothing that I said, that I'm willing to say, okay, this is worth my $400 entry point. Of course, I'm broke as well, so that may be a lot of it. But I didn't feel like there was anything that was that's a system seller right now.
Joe, was there anything at that Microsoft press conference you thought, man, maybe I'll become an Xbox One owner?
No.
None whatsoever?
No. You know me, the only game that I ever played on the Xbox or 360 was really Fable.
That's true.
No, I mean, I was a big Halo 1 fan, but other than that, I just played Halo for the LAN parties. So
yeah, I think for me, going back to my love of Mega Man, Inafune came out with ReCore, and we saw a little bit of it last year, and it reminds me a little bit of Mega Man Legends, which is probably my number one favorite all-time game. And just he just does something with robots, man. I mean, I don't know what it is, but he's like the number one game designer for robot stuff. And I thought, the stuff you could do in that game I thought was pretty good. It was still kind of, there's still some stuff there that needs to be fixed. It didn't look great per se, especially the environments and stuff didn't look super great, but I thought that it looked really good. Again, I'm not going to run out by an Xbox One for it, but I was impressed with that game. I'm not a Gears fan or anything, so Gears can just kind of go. It looked great, I know there's a huge following for it, but other than that, I was just impressed that they came out, with some big guns with the console releases, talking about Scorpio and then showing the Slim, and they have some pretty cool games. It's just I just don't feel like there's anything there that's going to let me run out and get one. I don't have any inclination to run out and get an Xbox One after that press conference.
Unless you need a TV tuner.
Right, because it's got a TV tuner, correct. Let's talk about, Joe, we talked about a little bit, and we'll get your thoughts here quickly. Was there anything that you was disappointed that didn't show up, or maybe, like Daniel said, there's some stuff that you wanted to see more of that we didn't really get a chance to see. Was there anything there that maybe disappointed you at E3?
I was kind of hoping to see, like, The Last of Us 2.
It'd been hinted really, and when they showed, what was that Sony game that they showed?
Yes.
I thought for sure that was The Last of Us 2. I thought for sure,
Days Gone.
Yeah, Days Gone. Yep. There you go. I thought for sure that was going to be. I thought that was the second one. I thought, man, they're really going to do this with a different set, and maybe 3 they'll bring them all together or something with a story. But that game looked great. But Joe, did you think that when they started showing that was maybe what that was?
To a point, I don't think it looked as good as The Last of Us, though.
It's still got some room, and I don't know when. Did they say a release date for that?
I don't think so.
I don't think.
But I think with The Last of Us, I mean, you don't have to try too hard for a story because I wouldn't mind to play as the brother.
That's true.
And see his journey. So.
Yeah, I thought a lot about The Last of Us 2 up to the show, but I think I ultimately didn't really expect it because, Naughty Dog is still riding the high off of the masterpiece that was Uncharted 4. So, that just came out last month. So, I was okay with the fact that we didn't see it. I'm sure it's being worked on, and I'm sure we're going to see it eventually, but, I think, I guess I wasn't that surprised that we didn't see it.
Let's talk about some of the big. We talked about obviously one of the bigger stories is Microsoft's reveal. The other big story that we had was that Bethesda pretty much gave Elder Scrolls all those people to be locked in a room for months and months on end with that HD re-release. Joe, we talked about it a little bit with Skyrim, and I said, would it be funny if they re-released it? He said, nah, I don't think they'll do it. And then all of a sudden, like right next, I was watching a press conference. Hey, we're going to do Skyrim HD edition, and like the internet blew up. Joe, as a Skyrim player, Daniel, I don't know if you played. I'm not a huge. I didn't play, but Joe, as a resident Skyrim crazy person that loves that game, is this something you're going to go back out and get? I mean, are you going to put in the 100+ hours that you did the first time?
No, because I still have it on PC. I've been modding. The only thing that they add to that game is mods. And as a PC user, I've been modding that game since it came out. So,
Daniel, does that interest you at all?
It really doesn't. I mean, I own the original Skyrim. I think I got it, kind of cheap. But I never really got into it. And I don't know, it feels... Is it just me, or does it just feel like really soon? Like, it wasn't that long ago that game came out. I mean, I think people are still playing it pretty regularly.
I mean, they still... Well, the thing is that game never ends. So, yeah, people will start playing it. But I think, that game's been out, I think, for at least, I want to say 6 years. I'm going to look it up right quick.
I thought it came out, was it 2010, 2011?
Let's see here. When was the release date?
That game just doesn't. I mean, that game's just too big for
2011.
me. Okay. That game just feels too big for me. Like, people talk about, I don't even know how that game ends because people. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about how it ends.
I think
because people just do everything else.
I think I'm like 36 hours because I started a new character. I'm like 36 hours into it. I've done like 2 of the missions for the main line.
And he's not going to pick this up.
I'm not. I mean, what's the point in picking it up for the PlayStation 4 when I've got something that looks just as good, if not better? So that I've been using.
Speaking of open world, I thought Nintendo knocked it out of the park with Zelda. I thought The Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild, as we found out, I thought that game was very impressive what they had to show off. And on the Wii U, I thought it looked really good on the Wii U. We have no clue what it's going to look like on the NX, but if it looks that good and runs that good on the Wii U, I think it's going to look even, I can't imagine what it's going to look like on the NX. Was you guys impressed with the Zelda footage? Because Nintendo took a big risk in only bringing that game. That's all they had. They had some Pokemon stuff, but really it was all about Zelda. That was a big risk by Nintendo. I thought it paid off. I thought it was the kind of the story of the show because they did pull it off. Did you guys like what you saw there? I own a Wii U. You guys want to wait for the NX and see, or it looked pretty neat?
Full disclosure, I feel terrible about this, but I didn't actually get to see the footage for Zelda. I didn't have time to watch it, so I have to back out of this conversation. But I mean, I know the internet blew up after they saw that footage, and it made several best of show lists. So I'm gonna go back and watch it at some point, but I just did not have time.
Joe, what'd you think about the Zelda footage?
I thought it looked great. Like, I really liked it.
And the thing about it is like we don't really know how big that world is. I mean, they said I guess they had 30-minute demos or something at the show, and they said even what they showed off at the show that there was no way to beat it or to get past that part. And I think that's pretty amazing for Nintendo to do, because Nintendo's really not done that. Create a big open world Zelda game. I thought it was pretty cool. Somebody mentioned the sci-fi elements. There were some different elements there that we haven't seen in Zelda games before. Obviously, the combat was good and everything else. Joe, what did you think about it overall? You said you really liked it. Was there something that you kind of looked at? Oh, that's kind of new for a Zelda game.
I liked it because it's something new for Nintendo.
That's true.
Like you said, they haven't really done anything, but I don't think they've had a system. I mean, their systems could probably handle it, but they haven't really had a system that you would want to sit down and play for a long time. I mean, the Wii U was probably one of them, but that controller still, I like it, but I'm not going to sit there and hold that controller forever. And then the nunchuck and everything with the Wii.
Well, you can't hold it forever. It's only a 5-hour battery. That's why I had to order an 8-hour battery that took 6 months to get here.
That's true. So, but I mean, overall, it makes me want. I think it makes me want to get a new Nintendo system.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote my piece that even though the NX wasn't there, Zelda kind of did some NX hype, because, like I said, that game looked great on the Wii U. We've all, we've all heard the negativity on the Wii U and everything else, but I mean, I can't imagine how good that game's going to look on the NX. Whatever the NX is, a handheld or a walking robot or whatever that it may be, I can't imagine how good that game's going to look if the Wii U can push it. Because I tried to play the Xenoblade Chronicles or whatever the new one was, and I thought it looked weird, like the people looked weird, and I didn't like the battle system, and that was supposed to be their kind of sprawling RPG, and I didn't really like it all that much. And then I look at this and thinking, holy crap, like this has the potential to be a true classic for them, and it just is going to look better, and just kind of more speculation on what the NX is and how good this game's going to look on the NX. So I thought they did a good job of not having the NX there, but kind of still being like, oh man, what's the NX going to be like if it's running on the Wii U like this? So it was interesting risk that they took, but I thought it paid off for them.
Now, before we go on, too, the one thing, along with The Last of Us 2, that I was kind of disappointed in was Red Dead not being there.
We talked about that. That was my disappointment.
After hearing so much about it, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, we talked about that along with Final Fantasy VII and Kingdom Hearts and some of the stuff that wasn't even talked about. So, yeah, I bemoaned my my disappointment for Red Dead Redemption 2 being there. And here's an enigma for you, and I have no clue what Kojima was doing. I know people love Kojima, and he's I'm not a big Metal Gear Solid fan, but I can see why people like those games. All I know is that I saw Norman Reedus's graphic, I guess CGI'd or whatever, bare butt, and kiss, with a baby and all this sand, and I have no clue what the heck he was doing. Guys, what did you think about? I mean, it's a big story because this is going to be a PS4 exclusive. Sony jumped on it when Konami let Kojima walk out the door. Maybe you guys can shed some light on this because I have no clue what this game is even going to be.
I mean, go ahead, Daniel.
I was going to say that, when the trailer hit, I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is, he's brought in Norman Reedus just like he was supposed to with PT, or with Silent Hills, I guess. I was like, this could be really cool. Who knows what this game about? Is it some kind of like purgatory or what's going on here? And then we start getting some interviews and start seeing how this was made, and basically they don't have any idea what the game is about either.
It was basically a tech demo, from what I took it.
It was basically a tech demo. Yeah. They just showed off some really cool tech. They filmed this scene just for this trailer. I think they said they don't even know what engine they're going to run the game on, or that So like at the first I was like, oh, this is cool, and then I was like, forget it. I just do not care about this right now. Show it to me when you've got an idea of what you're doing.
It was titled Death Stranding. So, and I think Joe, go ahead and tell you what theory that you think is going to be.
I don't know. What theory did I tell you?
We talk about more or less it may be a horror movie.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with him not getting to do Silent Hill, Kojima's, I think, is probably one of the best. I mean, I love the Silent Hill games, so, but I don't know. I think it's going to be some sort of the way, like you said, I don't know if the trailer has anything to do with the game or not. But like at the very end, you see these like
at all, Joe. Just anything at all.
Well, at the very end of it, like you see these like huge like pyramid objects floating in the sky, and you're just like, what's going on? You know, didn't know what to think.
It's a drug simulation. That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
And then people ask Kojima what's going on, and he's basically like, "Well, we don't know yet. We're still figuring that out."
And then everybody's like, "Kojima's a genius. He don't even know what he's doing," you know. This is probably going to be the rest of the show is probably going to be talking about Sony stuff because I thought they killed the press conference.
Wait.
Yeah.
The big pyramids are just giant pyramids heads, like walking through the ocean, like they got in the radioactive sludge that happened in Japan a few years ago, and now he's huge and had 3 different sized babies, and they're coming to take Norman Reedus's baby away. Or how about this? You know, the baby had like little black handprints. He got in the sludge, and he turned into one of the giant pyramid heads, and now Norman Reedus have to kill him. He's like, "Oh, my son, it's a giant pyramid head." Like that's what the game's gonna be about.
I think we just discovered that we have a poor man Kojima right here. That's just a geek. We'll probably talk about Sony for the rest of the time because I thought they killed the press conference. And I know I love the Giant Bomb guys, but a lot of those guys didn't think they did, and I don't know why. But I thought they did a really good job. Let's talk about Crash Bandicoot for a second. We all play Crash Bandicoot. This is probably going to be a short conversation, but coming out with an HD re-release of Crash Bandicoot, we've kind of been asking for it for years, and it's one of the they've done Sly re-release, they've done Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, they've done all those. So Crash was coming up for his. I geeked out because we all love Crash. What was your reaction to the HD collection?
Well, for me personally, I think it's cool just because of the history that Crash has with the PS series or the PS brand. It's probably nothing that I'll play, to be honest, but I think it is cool that that this basically the mascot for PlayStation for so many years is coming back to PlayStation, and you realize how hard that had to have been with Activision owning the character now. And I think back, the big game that Sony had, PlayStation All Stars, was it Battle Royale?
Yeah,
it was basically Super Smash Brothers. Basically Super Smash Brothers with Nintendo. But, Crash wasn't in that game, and that should have been a game that he was in. Period. So to see him coming back, I realize. I guess I get, how cool that is, but it's nothing. It's nothing that I'm going to play personally.
I think the big appeal of that game, we talked about a little bit with Final Fantasy VII when they re-released it with trophies and whatnot. I think that may be a really, appeal to this game. It's like, hey, I played this once, but now I get trophies for it, and it allows me to re-experience something and add something to the game. I think that's where trophies. I don't chase trophies. If I really like a game, I'll try to get as much as I can. But I think it'd be pretty cool to have something more than just experience the nostalgia. But now you've got, now I can do all these trophies and do these special things, or maybe there's a glitch that I can actually still do that's in there that's a trophy or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty cool. Joe, what do you think about the Crash stuff?
I always liked Crash, but I wasn't as big as a fan as you were. I was more into like the Jackson Daxter, and even Spyro. But I'll probably pick up the HD remakes because it was a childhood game that I played just to play it again.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think that's just a kind of a throw out. And Sony's done this where they do stuff for the fans, and I think that's why the PS4 is super successful. They've done stuff for the fans. They throw out these little things for the fans, and I think it works out for them a lot. Let's talk about. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to touch on because I think a lot of these games we'll probably touch on as far as some of our favorites. But let's just go ahead and jump into some of our favorite games of the conference. Joe, we'll start with you, man. What we'll probably talk about a couple games, but what one game really stood out for you as something that was like, holy crap, like that's going to be an amazing game?
The Friday the 13th game.
I thought you'd say that.
Just because I saw the gameplay, and when they showed Jason like picking that girl up by the hand, just like smashing it up against the tree, I was like, this is my childhood, man. Like I want to play as Jason. So
and if people don't know about that game. Basically, there's going to be one person that's Jason, and it's a multiplayer game, and everybody else, Jason's going to be chasing him. Everybody else is the teenager or whatever, the token characters that you have there. Joe, you was really excited about that, and you texted me and said, "Did you see that? Holy crap!" And I think Jared is super excited about it too. So,
hey, we might have to do when monsters play.
We may that would be cool, especially if we get that would be awesome. Yeah, most definitely. Maybe our first big stream. Yeah. Daniel, what game that really kind of jumped out at you from the get go? You're just like, "Holy crap!" I'm going to have to get this one day one.
Well, the game that stood out to me most was God of War. Sony used it to open up their press conference. I thought it was a good move, and it wasn't just. I guess what was so cool about it is it wasn't like a trailer. It wasn't like this teaser. I mean, we got to see gameplay. I mean, this was somebody playing the game. And we heard some rumblings prior to E3 about maybe this next God of War will be in Norse mythology and all this. But to actually see this game come out and to see a completely different Kratos was really cool. I mean, here he is. He's having he's helping this kid through the woods and through this like very harsh environment. He's very calm with the kid. You can tell it's still Kratos because he's still kind of mad and still kind of angry, but he's really trying to help this kid. I think that's what stood out the most to me. And I touched on it on my piece, but through 6 games, God of War was really boring, and Kratos was a really boring character. I mean, it was novel in the beginning because here's this guy who just destroys everything in front of him, but then you get through so many games and you're just like, why is he still doing this? Like, why is he killing everything in his way? And by the time I played all those games, and by the time I finished them, I don't even know why I was still playing them. I guess just because they were beautifully made, but I thought it was really brilliant the way they led off the conference with it, and the way they had this gameplay, and where they basically just took Kratos and said, let's make him actually likable and give him something to fight for. They really took from the Last of Us, with this kind of like parent-child relationship going on. So I really think that game has potential to be really good, and I'm really curious to see what happens with it.
I kind of feel like you said parent-child. What happened if that is like Kratos' kid?
I mean, I think it's got to be. It's either his kid or his grandson or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So I think that there's already been a lot of theories out there about who this kid is. Is he a god? Did Kratos knock up a god, or did he knock up Odin's wife? Things like this. These crazy theories. But I think that's what makes it so fun, and I think IGN did a great special on basically all the hidden things that were in that demo, like characters in the background that disappear, and a giant snake that looks like a river, but it's probably a snake, and there's a giant wolf that runs off. I thought there was a lot of neat things, and it just got me amped up. So I really thought that's what stood out the most to me of the entire show.
I've never been a big God of War fan. I think I played parts of the first one. I think you hit on the head. Kratos just seemed like a guy that I just didn't want to play. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And I think a lot of what the novelty of God of War was, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it was really the first game that had quick time stuff. And we had never seen that. We have never seen that in a video game. These big epic boss battles that, you got to a certain part, you push A and this big animation happened or whatever. I think that was the novelty of the game for starting off. And it looked great. I'm sure it was fun. I've always heard good things about the combat. But once everybody started doing it, it kind of lost that shine. It kind of lost that novelty. And I've heard many people say after 2 they should have stopped. Like they should have just reset the series even after 2. And this was the first God of War game that I thought, holy crap. Like, just like you said, I actually like Kratos. He seems like a, he's very emotionless, but you could tell that he cares about this boy and he wants to teach him, and he's not this hateful kind of crazy angry driven person, at least to a certain extent, not like he was in the other games. Was basically that's all he was a big angry bald dude. Now you give him a little bit more character, a little bit more emotion to it. And it's interesting, some of the stuff that they did, like, at the end we see that big dragon flying up, like, holy crap, that would be awesome if you had to jump on it and ride it and whatever you had to do, and just the possibilities of it. And let's just be quite honest, that game looked gorgeous. Like, that game was just pretty. And to see it running on a PlayStation 4, as far as we know anyway, on the PlayStation 4 in gameplay, I think they did a great thing. Because when they opened up, I didn't know what it was. And all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, are they really going to do gameplay with this? So I'm with you, Daniel. You've played the whole series. This is the first one that I've saw that I'm probably going to get because it looks really, really cool and looked different from what the series was before. My favorite game, and this doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, even Daniel shouted out when he was doing the recap there. That Spider-Man game took me completely by surprise. I had no clue it was coming. Nobody had talked about it, at least from what I don't even. This was even in the works. Like, this has been so tight, kind of locked away. And I saw Insomniac pop up, and you hear the and you still, even with the narrative, you're like, I don't know what this is. And all of a sudden he said, boy from Queens. And I thought, oh, is this a new Spider-Man game? And you just see the action. And, the uniform, even though it's not the traditional Spider-Man costume, I actually like the redesign. I like the big white spider. I think that looks really cool and kind of really puts him out in that world. I was so stoked with that. And a lot of the stuff that they showed, you really didn't know if it was gameplay or not. And come to find out, that was running on a regular PS4. That was actual gameplay that they recorded from it. And that got me even more excited about it. So I wrote my piece. One of my favorite Spider-Man games was the one for the PS1. Probably the best one on the system. I have Shattered Dimensions, which I heard was really good as well. Just haven't played it yet. But that first one for the PlayStation, in joking, we played that thing to death until we got all the costumes and everything else. And I'm glad it's not movie related. I'm glad they're kind of doing it. I read an interview with the guy that's over the Marvel games now, and he said, we want to make the best games. We're only working with the best people. And that game just, it took my breath away. I was so stoked. I kind of geeked out a little bit. I was at work and keeping up with it, and I was like, holy crap, a new Spider-Man game. And then to top it off, it's an exclusive, which is crazy to me that Spider-Man has an exclusive on PS4. I never thought that would be an exclusive game. And Sony is just, they're bringing back that exclusive wars. And I've said this before, even though it kind of, some people hate it, some people love it. The more exclusive you have for the system, the more systems you're going to move. And Sony showed a lot of exclusives, and I was really surprised that Spider-Man was one of them, but I was really happy to be a PS4 owner.
I tell you what, when I saw that, of course, I instantly thought of you, and I thought Aaron's going to love this. But I tell you what, the scene from that trailer, from that gameplay or that trailer that blew my mind was the scene where he's swinging from the web, and he's like going down into the city, like, and those cars are driving by. It's like, it is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous, the detail that they put into just this itty-bitty scene. Yep. I don't know if you all saw that part, but like, that was a part that I was just like, oh my goodness, this is a game that I would actually play.
Yeah, it looked amazing, and I was shocked that it's an exclusive. That was the part, even though the game looked great, regardless of, whether it be on Xbox or not, I was really surprised that was an exclusive. I thought it was a coup to get that type of character with that type of fan base, and it's all on the PS4. And who knows what there have been rumors that this isn't the only thing that's going to be exclusive from Marvel on PS4. Rumors that there's going to be more Spider-Man stuff that's exclusive. So, Joe, what did you think about Spider-Man, the trailer, and just kind of the shocking exclusive tag that got put on it?
It looks awesome. I knew it was going to be yours, so I didn't take it. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, man. But the thing that popped in my mind, like, instantly when I saw it, I think I texted you, I was like, man, are we going to get a new, like, Marvel Ultimate Alliance game?
Oh, man. And then not shortly after they announced that they're going to put Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 on the store. Mm-hmm. I thought, holy crap.
Yeah. So, that was my first thought, and I hope, if Marvel's not work with Sony, man, I hope that they redo, I'd like to see a good Captain America game, and I'd like to see, another Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
And, it is shocking to me that, as big as the Marvel movies are, as much money as they make, as big as the TV series are right now with Daredevil and Jessica Jones, that, we don't have any good games really. Out of this universe, and it's like, I don't know if they just not make it. They just can't make a good game, or they just don't understand that this is a huge market that they need to tap into. But it is shocking to me that of all the media that we're getting from the Marvel universe, that is just spectacular. And I'm thinking about it now because I'm watching Daredevil season 2, and I just love it so much right now. But,
yes, us too.
yeah. But it's just shocking that we have not got like a great Marvel Universe game.
I think
like in a long time.
I think we talked about it, Bub, and I've talked about it about how awesome it would be to maybe have like a Daredevil game or something like that, kind of like on the lines of like Shadow of Mordor, with the same kind of like and Batman, kind of the same type of fighting style.
Mm-hmm.
And then we even touched on it, how the fighting style in the Captain America game when they've released it or PS3, even though it was a piece of crap game, but if they would have just done a little bit more, because they almost had that Batman feel to it with the fighting style. If they'd done a little bit more, it would have been a better game. But I mean, I hope we see more of this. I mean, I love all the Marvel characters. Like you said, the best game to come out was probably the Ultimate Alliance games. Those the last ones that came out that was worth playing. So
I think the key to this, and he said this in the interview, was, we're not. This isn't going to coincide with Spider-Man: Homecoming. Like, this is something completely separate. And I think, Daniel, especially in like from the PlayStation 2 era on, I guess there, when the superhero movies first started kind of becoming popular, I think that really hurt them because people were trying to rush out these franchises and their games stunk. And I think you look back like the 16-bit stuff or even the early PlayStation stuff. There weren't a lot of movies like Maximum Carnage is a great beat 'em up for the Super Nintendo. You look at stuff like Captain America and the Avengers, great beat 'em up for the Super Nintendo, or for the Genesis version, a lot better than the Super Nintendo version. And even though they're very simple beat 'em up, it still had the great characters, and it was a Marvel game, and you could really tell. I think him saying that, like, these aren't movie tie-ins. Like, if we're going to do an Avengers, it's not going to be a tie-in movie that we have to rush to get out. We're going to work with the best studios, and they're going to take their time to make great games. And that just warmed my heart. And just because, like what you said, we don't get good Marvel games. We barely get good DC games, minus the Batman stuff. And Batman's really kind of saved the video game, could show that superhero video game can actually thrive if you give them enough time to be developed. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty stoked. And I'm stoked for Spider-Man. I'm stoked for what the Marvel Universe has to offer as far as video games in the next 5-6 years, and hopefully we see a lot more of these. Was there any other game that kind of caught your eye? I know me and Daniel talked about top 3. Daniel, was there anything else that kind of caught your eye as one that you really liked?
Well, I guess I'll just go over my top 3 if you don't mind. But as far as going back to the Microsoft press conference, I really liked the footage that we saw of Sea of Thieves, which I don't know if you all saw it, but it was a pirate game. It looks like a online MMO co-op where basically you and a group of friends control a pirate ship. One is steering, one's on the anchor, others are on the sails, others are on the guns, whatever. I just thought that had potential to be really cool. We didn't see a lot from it. I mean, we basically saw a bunch of actors really enjoying themselves playing this game, right? But I thought what we did see was cool, and I thought the idea that they were presenting was really neat. I don't know if it'll be successful, but I was definitely really impressed by what we saw and really hopeful that this could be like a really cool game.
I think it's a big undertaking, to pull something like that off, and I'm just glad to see Rare's actually making games again. If you look at the history of Rare, there's a great podcast called The Retronauts, and they look at the history of Rare, and Rare tends to disappear for a long time, and they come up, and because they've been owned by numerous companies, and they had really a pedigree on the NES. They put so many games out for the NES that up until that podcast, only as far as Rare was the Donkey Kong. That's the only, I didn't know they made Battletoads for a long time. So just to see them kind of back in the game, and that studio with so much heritage and great games coming from it, mostly for Nintendo, but to see them kind of get back, I thought that was pretty cool. And I hope this game is super good. I'm not gonna, again, not one that I'll probably run out by an Xbox One for, but just to see that concept, it's kind of like No Man's Sky. It's a concept I'm not really interested in, but man, it's a big concept, and it kind of shows where game developers are going. And I hope it's good. I hope that the Xbox One guys enjoy it, and you see Rare make even more awesome games.
It's funny you say that. That was my first thought. It was basically like No Man's Sky for pirates, right? Or for,
exactly. Yeah, that's a good. Most definitely. Yeah.
That's what I thought of, but I mean, I just think I guess I don't know if I'm excited. I'm not exactly excited about playing it, but I think I'm just excited about the possibilities that game of what that game could be.
Yeah, if it works, like what other games are we going to see? You know, are we going to see one where you're in a galactic space battle and you have friends that have to do certain things and whatnot? You know, there's so much stuff that you could do with that. Joe, was there any other games that you thought you liked?
Well, I mean, besides the normal Battlefield 1, Dishonored 2 looked really good. I thought Detroit looked really good.
That's an interesting game. Yeah.
Now, if you never played Heavy Rain, I love Heavy Rain. Some people like it, some people didn't, but I thought it was a really good game, and I'm excited for Detroit to come out.
I think that the PS4 hardware is nothing against the PS3. They had some good games that was more like that, where it was decision based and stuff like that, more of a story driven, almost like a moving book basically. But I think the PS4 hardware, as far as the AI and stuff that you can get out of that, I think it definitely lends itself for a better type of game. I think Hard Rain was, it had to get pretty good reviews. What was the other one that they
Beyond Two Souls?
Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah, Two Souls. That got some pretty good reviews, but I think the hardware, at least from what I've seen from games that I've played, that the AI is just so much more fluid that I think it kind of lends itself more for this hardware than what they did on the PS3.
Well, Hard Rain was one of the first PS3 games that actually came out. So
right, and they're doing an HD. Are they doing a remake for not a remake, but an HD release for that?
They already did.
Yeah, it's already out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's only on the PlayStation Store though. I may be wrong about that, but I think it's on. I think it and Beyond Two Souls are only on the store.
Okay.
But I agree with you. Of course, I've been following that studio. I played every one of that studio's games. I played Indigo Prophecy. I played Heavy Rain. I played Beyond Two Souls. I've enjoyed them all, but I guess I was still disappointed in certain aspects of them. I thought they could have been better. They didn't quite deliver on some of the maybe what I had blown up in my head. So I'm a little cautiously optimistic when it comes to Detroit. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to play it. There's no doubt about it. But I'm hoping that they've learned some of their lessons of things that didn't work in their past games.
Well, I think what we really want from those games is to really feel like our choices matter. And even though, like Heavy Rain, from what I've read about Heavy Rain and some of the other games, is that even though you're making choices, they're still kind of funneling you towards the ultimate end game, I guess, to a certain extent. And I feel like with this hardware that, if you make the wrong choice or if you do make a choice that alters things, that you can change, the ending, or something can go completely wrong and it just throw everything into haywire. I think that's what's intriguing about this game and the hardware, is that I feel like if I did make this choice, that I completely change the landscape of the game. Like it completely changes. Not just this path to set me on a path to go to the path they want me to go on, but it could completely change how I play the game.
Mm-hmm.
One of the games.
Can I jump in on that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just throw out an opinion there, and I agree with you as far as we want our choices to matter, and we want the story to affect our choices. But I guess I've just been thinking a lot about this topic, especially ever since I finished Life is Strange. Here's a game that's all about choice, right? But spoilers if you haven't played this game. But in the end, none of the choices matter at all. But none of the choices really affect the story except like the last few. And I guess that game ended up still being great because they told a great story. So I guess that's one thing that I would just point out, that maybe the decisions aren't as important, but if you can't tell a good story.
That's true. I mean, look at a game like, Joe, we talked about Until Dawn, and I don't know if you've played it or not. I know you said you was going to pick it up. I don't know if you have it or not. But from what I've heard about that game is that you make choices, and later in the game, those choices change how the game reacts. Like, even I don't know, spoiler alert, I don't know, I guess anybody, I don't know, but one of the guys said that, that one of his choices, changed who the killer was. Like, it just changed it because he made a choice in the game, and I guess you can do that for all of them. You don't know who the killer is, but you can make certain choices that can make the game back, all right, you made this choice, here you go. Or are you going to help this person or run off? And if you choose yes, you're going to help them, then this is going to change the story down the line here. It's actually going to make the landscape different. And I think that when I heard about that game, I was like, man, that's really on the same path. And that was really a surprising game. That started out as a move game, and they morphed it into this thing, and it got super good reviews because of what those choices actually matter. That those choices actually did make the game different from every choice, like this ripple effect throughout the game.
Yeah, like I heard you don't play the same game twice, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, with games like that, I could see that because it's story driven, but it's also, one of those games that I think has a story to it, but they put so much time into it that the story could be different every time.
Right.
If you look at like one of my favorite game series, and this is the Fable series, I absolutely love it. But looking back, I mean, those choices didn't really matter because at the end you done the same thing. It's either the game's been out forever, but I'll say spoiler alert just in case. At the end, I'm just gonna say, killed someone or let them live, and either way, I mean, if you were good or bad during the game, it led up to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great game because it told a great story. Now, the one thing I liked about Dishonored is how you played the game kind of changed it as well. Like if you left like bodies in the street, or if you killed too many people, like everybody was scared of you. If you left too many bodies in the street, the more rats was gonna get in the streets. The little choices that you made really affected that game.
I think you just have to, and I think Daniel hit on it. It's a fine line between telling a story that's really good and still giving the player enough to know that you are affecting the story. Mm-hmm. And I think that, as far as a developer, I think you got to think, I got to do multiple endings, but I still want these to be a story there. I want this person to walk away and be like, man, that story was really awesome and affected me. Definitely recommend this game for somebody like story-driven stuff. But I think it's a fine line. You can either, like Joseph, funnel everything towards one no matter what you do, or do you go overboard and have, instead of ripple effects, kind of waves that completely destroy the narrative you're looking to do.
And let me tell you, if you guys have not played Until Dawn, you have got to play that game. Have you? I mean, it is excellent, and especially for you guys who like horror movies. I mean, that game should be number one on your to play list, frankly, because I love that game.
I've heard great things about it, and I know Joe talked about it. I don't know if he's played it yet or not, but that's definitely. Joe's more of a horror guy than I am, and when he first saw it, he was like, "Man, did you see this game?" and he was right up his alley.
I played it at a friend's house. I haven't bought the game, but we played it and stayed up to we played from 11 o'clock and just kept playing until 6 o'clock in the morning, just playing it. It was awesome.
It is that type of game that you just sit down and you just play. And I think it'd be the perfect game to sit in a room with people and just play. I can see that.
And there's not many games, especially single-player games, that do that now. I mean, back in the day you had Mario and, you had bunch of stuff that single player, but you can still share that experience with. There's not many games like that anymore, so so that's pretty cool. One of the games that I really liked, and we saw a little bit of it last year as far as an announcement, but we didn't really see a gameplay, and we got probably about 10 minutes of gameplay out of this, was the Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought that game looked fantastic. Now, I've never played any of the Killzone games. I looked up the studio, and of course they did pretty much all the Killzone games for the PS4. But I thought that game looked amazing. I think it's a really neat concept, a big concept that I wrote in my piece. It's like it's like Red Dead Redemption with a dash of cyberpunk and a little bit of a pinch of Jurassic Park. I mean, it's a big type of recipe here that could be really weird, but from what I've seen, like you hack the animals. I mean, you hacked basically like a yak. It's basically and jumped on it. You hacked it and then you wrote it. And that by itself is like, holy crap! Like I never really thought about that, but yeah, sure. If you that'd be perfect way to get around that land. And I thought the environment was great. I thought it looked really cool. The hero seems to be she seems to be one of those strong female protagonists that we kind of need more of in games. As far as that new female protagonist, not turning protagonists into females, but being new characters coming out and giving you a strong female protagonist because of it being a new character. I just thought that game looked tremendous, and I'm sad it got pushed back to 2017. But I wrote in a piece, I was like, I really hope that pushback puts it as a Game of the Year candidate, because from what I've seen, it's got me really intrigued.
You hack-a-yak?
Hack-a-yak.
I guess I haven't been as excited about that game. I know I've seen a lot of it. I did watch the whole trailer. I guess the premise just has me cautious, because it could be, I guess it could come off as being kind of hokey and kind of like almost over the top, unrealistic. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if that makes sense, but you've got like dinosaurs that are basically machines, and I guess it's a cool idea. I'm just cautious as to whether or not it'll work and how it plays throughout the game. Is this a world that I can believe in? Is this a world that I can get sucked into, or is this whole time, or am I going to be playing the game the whole time and feel like, is this? I don't feel like this is real.
Right. And I think this goes back to narrative. If they can pull the narrative off and create this world, it seems like it's going to be very much based in like this almost mysticism as far as around machines, which is very, very interesting, very sci-fi-ish, as religion and sci-fi and all that stuff kind of mixed in together, and technology and stuff like that. And it seems like it almost like, from what I got from the story, it looks like there's going to be like this dark kind of virus type thing that can go into things and make them crazy or whatever as far as machines. So if they can build on that story and build that world, and this, I'm sure they're looking to do a franchise. If they can kind of pull this out and make a really intriguing story, I think it'd be really cool. But for me personally, and I'm kind of the opposite of you, Daniel. I don't mind these crazy worlds that I could be like, I don't think they're real, but that's okay because I'm going to play them. Because I feel like games have kind of regressed into this, it has to be dirty and realistic, and almost visiting what the 90s were. We got GTA, we got Battlefield, we got all these games that, I'm okay with violence, but they just don't intrigue me. And then you throw out something like this, you're like, man, that's a neat concept. And sure, it can be a disaster, but just the concept of it seems just so original to me. I just think it's a neat. I hope they pull it off because I really want this game to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we didn't really talk about, and I don't know how Daniel feels. I know how me and Joe kind of feels about VR. VR, we was kind of, as far as the Microsoft side of it, we maybe thought that they was going to kind of announce a partnership with Oculus. They had been hinted around, bantered around. They're already packed in with an Xbox controller, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a big fan of VR. I've said I'm going to be the grumpy old guy that's playing, his PS4 while everybody's running around with a weird-looking, helmet on their head playing whatever. One game that I thought was intriguing, and I thought that Sony did a pretty good job of really pushing Morpheus, or whatever that they're going to call it. I thought they did a much better job at kind of explaining what this is going to be, but I thought that Resident Evil 7 demo was pretty darn good, and I'm not a VR guy at all, but I thought it was pretty good. Joe, as our resident horror guy, what do you think about that Resident Evil 7 demo?
It would make me want to buy VR.
Okay, there you go.
Like that made me want to buy one. But I think I've said it many times, unless I get a Virtual Boy and a Power Glove, I won't buy VR.
Listen, don't tempt Nintendo, man. Don't tempt them. Don't.
Hey, they were ahead of the game, man. They were ahead of the game. For once in their life, they were ahead of something.
The thing about Nintendo is Nintendo's always ahead of the game, but they make stuff that suck, and then somebody's like, I can make that better, and then somebody else makes more money off of it.
Hey, we don't make this Virtual Boy, but we can't call it a Virtual Boy, so we're going to call it Morpheus.
Minus the Wii. The Wii was the one thing that Nintendo figured out that was the best, and everybody tried to copy, and everybody else sucked.
Yeah, the motion.
The Wii was already the best with it. Daniel, what do you think about the trailer and just VR in general? What I thought that, and I've talked to Andrew about this, but I feel like as of VR, I think Sony's got the inside edge because of the fact that they have hardware they're working with. They have hardware in the hands of people that know how to work with that, VR or not, and they also have a headset that doesn't have to work with 1,000 things. It can only work with the PlayStation 4, which I mean I can imagine makes developing a game for this a lot easier. What do you think about VR, and was there anything there that kind of said, hey man, I might actually like VR, or man, I'm not interested. It's cool, but maybe I'm just not interested in it.
Well, I'll start with Resident Evil, and when I saw that trailer, like I was blown away. And then at the main end they said Resident Evil 7, and I was like, wow, that is so cool, and the crowd got really excited. I mean, I was sitting on my computer watching it, and I was a little scared. I mean, I was a little freaked out by what we were watching. But some of my excitement really went down after I saw that, because it kind of came out that this isn't an actual part of the game. It's basically like a tech demo. Then we got some news from the show floor that a lot of people were getting sick by playing the VR portion of this game. So maybe that scares me a little bit. I actually downloaded the demo, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet. So I wish I'd played it before we came on. But I guess I was really I thought it was really awesome when I initially saw it, but my excitement really went down some after hearing more about it from the show floor. As far as VR is concerned, we've been playing games a long time. We've seen a lot of fads. We've seen things come and go. I mean, I felt like everybody in the world knew that 3D wasn't going to be a big thing, and everyone knew that motion control was just a fad. But these companies are still pushing this stuff. But I think it almost feels like VR might make it. I mean, PlayStation already has this huge user base. They already have, what is it, like 40 million units worldwide or something like that. They've got it there. So all they need to do is they just need to make the people that are going to buy it no matter what. They just need to make them happy. And if they can make them happy, then they can start bringing in, the casual people and guys like us that are still skeptical. So I think it almost feels like this could be big. I'm just cautious because we all have seen the fads. We know what they look like, and we've seen things that come and go, and it seems like we always come back to just that controller. Having that controller in my hand in front of the TV. So it'll be interesting, but I guess I'm a little scared too that they're maybe overselling that VR can actually run on the PS4 as it is now. Why are they? They're pushing the Neo so hard. They're really working hard to get this Neo done. I'm worried that we're going to get an inferior product on the regular PS4. So that's something that concerns me.
Well, we don't know much about the Neo, but you got to think the Neo has to have some of that stuff built in. Because I mean, maybe I'm wrong on this, and I can't remember where I read it, but it's already said that it'll come with some move equipment, the head unit, and then I think a box to go with it or some kind of add-on box. I think that needs to be plugged in. I don't know. And I tell people this all the time, whether it be sports or whether it be video games or comic books. I want everything to be successful. I'm not one of those guys that hope everything, just because I don't like it, I hope it fails. I hope somebody enjoys it, and I hope Sony continues to make money, and I hope that we get awesome systems out of this, and they can do some more cool stuff. But it's just one of those things where I do think, looking at VR, that this isn't like a half-hatched idea. That they are actually putting it in. I think Sony has the right idea. To be quite honest, I have no clue what Oculus is doing. I didn't hear much of them from the E3 press conference. Of course, you had Microsoft talk about the HoloLens. We haven't heard that since last year. Not a peep or anything about it. I just think that Sony has said, hey, this is, we're not going to partner with anybody. We're just going to do this, and if it works, it works. If not, then you've got another piece of equipment that just doesn't work, and we'll go back to the drawing board.
But you can play this awesome demo on it.
And that's another thing that I'm worried about. So far, all these games that I've seen that people are talking about are just tech demos. Yeah. Like there's really not games left. And somebody, I think it was the guy from BioWare, talked about, or maybe the CD Projekt Red, I can't remember. But they were talking about how the challenge with VR is that, you see these demos that are like 10, 15, up to like 30 minutes long possibly. But he's like, for first-person shooters or competitive stuff, yeah, that's awesome because you're going to play for 7 minutes and then jump back into the game or whatever. But for us that plays a lot of games, action RPGs, adventure games, are you really going to keep that on your helmet for 4 hours while you play an RPG or while you make your RPG character? Or are you going to, put that on and play WoW with it on or whatever VR? I just don't. I think it's a novelty piece that can really be done up for 30 to an hour minute game or to an hour games, but I don't know how you can have the experience because I'm not a big first person and I have no clue how they're going to make a game that appeals to me because I don't like first person. I don't like them. I got out of that a long time ago, but the only thing that I see out of this first person, I'm going to punch this guy in the face or I'm going to shoot this guy or I'm floating through space or whatever that it is. I just think that, and nothing that Sony showed, the Resident Evil stuff was cool looking, but nothing else that showed, I was like, I don't care. Like, I just don't care about it.
Yeah, and to that point, we saw they announced the Star Wars game, the Batman game, the Final Fantasy, add-on, and
all was terrible.
Yeah, apparently, and all these games are just like episodes, right? I mean, there probably are like 30-minute, things, or there's nothing. These aren't necessarily games. They're like, I mean, it's like DLC, right? I mean, it's just like little episodes. That's the only way I know how to describe it. So I feel like we still haven't seen that killer app for PlayStation VR.
Yeah, I've heard the Batman thing was pretty cool experience, but I mean, and I think VR is very much a social thing, like being able to watch somebody do something on the screen. And maybe that appeals to like the Let's Play and the streamers and stuff to get everybody over and say, hey, check out this VR stuff. But just like the Wii, at some point you just don't care anymore. Like there's not enough out there. There's just shovelware and mini games and stuff like that. There's very few good games that you want to go back and put this headset on for. And I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something that'll prove me wrong, and I hope they do. I really do. But right now, I just I don't want 30-minute games. I have a Vita. I have a phone that gives me 30-minute games. That can do that. So it'll be interesting. I want everything to be successful, but
You want to know the secret?
Sure.
I'm the Minesweep VR champion.
Minesweep VR. Minesweep. That may do it, Joe. That may push a lot of hardware. Mm-hmm. That and that weird Kojima thing. Put them together. Do like naked Norman Reedus playing Minesweep or something. I
don't know if I want to do a VR where I'm naked Norman Reedus.
Yeah, you just lost all Kojima.
The only way to beat your son, who was turned into giant Pyramid Head, is to win Minesweeper at the hardest level.
Next year at E3, Kojima presents Minesweeper. Guys, before we wrap up here, let's talk about E3 as a whole. Obviously, attendance was, I believe, down a little bit this year. It was down last year again. A lot of the E3 has to be done with the press conferences. I mean, after the press conferences, you kind of keep up with articles, but that's what gets you hyped up. What are they going to do at the press conferences? And it even started earlier this year. Like, we had press conferences on Saturday and Sunday, and I think last year we had one on Sunday, and the rest was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So they're getting earlier and earlier in their press conferences. And to be quite honest, 24-hour news cycle, we get a lot of this stuff way before E3. We get leaks before E3. People, when Nintendo pulls their console out of E3, you kind of get worried that E3's kind of lost their luster and just decides to do it on a random Wednesday in March or whatever they're looking to do. What do you guys think about E3 as a whole, as a conference? Is it something that they need to change? Is it going to be around the next 4 or 5 years? What would you like to see to kind of maybe build up the excitement post-conference maybe? Daniel, what do you think about the expo as a whole? And in 2 or 3 years, are we even going to have an E3 or just a bunch of press conferences and just, press junkets?
I think we still will, and I think it's one of those things that kind of ebbs and flows. Personally, as far as this year goes, I mean, I think with all the press coverage, with all the people, I mean, I know that attendance is down, but this thing is getting streamed like on every major gaming website, right? IGN, GameSpot, everybody is streaming this, and everybody's talking about it. So I think that as long as there is that much publicity that these companies can get from, like what is basically just like an hour-long press conference and basically putting together a bunch of tech demos, I think we're going to continue to see E3. I don't think that it's going to go anywhere. I think that companies can have their own press conferences, but I don't know. I just get the feeling that this is such a kind of a big thing for the gaming industry as a whole. Gets people excited, and as long as companies feel like they can still get people excited about their games and get people excited about spending money on their stuff, we're gonna continue to see E3.
Joe, what do you think about E3 and the future of the expo as far as what we see it now, as far as this big kind of extravaganza for the video game lovers?
Well, one, I think we need to jump on the boat and take it away from them. Attendance is down. This is our time to go in and be like, hey, MOG is going to do this big game expo. Y'all want to come? They're like, who's MOG? We're like, trust me. Just trust me. All right?
Pause the podcast here and bring Joe back to reality. So Joe, come back to reality a little bit. I'm going to throw you a rope. I'm going to pull you in.
It's going to happen.
In reality, what do you think about E3's future?
Like Daniel said, I don't think it's going anywhere. The attendance may be down, but you got to remember, we do live in America. Most companies only have like 40-hour vacation. You don't get paid sick time, so nobody's going to leave work to go to E3. But, hey, I'm going to work and I'm going to stream it. I would like to see the numbers of people who streamed E3.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd like to see how much money all these websites are making from hits, with these individual stories. I bet they're killing. I bet they kill this week.
And another thing is, and it's a long shot, but if you're the kid that was at E3 with the Make Tony Hawk Great Again sign, and you listen to this, you let us know, and I will personally send you something because that was an awesome little get up that you had. That was awesome. But yeah, with more and more people like not showing up with their stuff or doing their own press conferences, it kind of makes me sad that we don't see some of the like bigger game companies there every year, like Rockstar. They haven't been there. They didn't been there last year or this year. So I think that needs to change. But overall, I think E3's gonna stay. I think it's a big platform for us gamers.
I think the week of E3 will stay. I think the under one, like the Staples Center or wherever that they have, I think that goes away. I think what you'll kind of see is, and you already kind of saw it this year with like EA Play, and you see Activision kind of doing their own thing, and Nintendo doing their own thing away from the stadium or the thing that they're the main conference as far as underneath where the gamers go. Just people pulling their booths, and I saw accounts that was like the show floor was kind of bare because Activision wasn't there, and EA wasn't there, and Nintendo wasn't there, and 2K was there, but then you had other people pull out. Disney wasn't there because they decided not to do video games anymore. I think you'll always see kind of this E3 week with the press conferences and stuff like that, but I think you're going to start seeing more and more companies, especially bigger companies, and as the business grows, that Nintendo's going to be down the road, or EA is going to be going to be 15 minutes away or whatever, doing their own thing. And I think as the week of E3 won't go away, but I think you're going to see a lot of it evolve because I'm sure it's a lot of money to rent that place out, do all this stuff, and if you don't have those primetime players there, you're not going to have Activision there. If you're not going to have EA there, if Nintendo's not going to be there, or Sony's not going to do a booth. Why would you go there? Like, why would you do that when, if I'm Sony, I can be like, I can have my own event with my own kiosk, and you saw that a lot. Like, Microsoft had kiosks behind everybody that they had games on. Sony did the same thing. You could go play, just turn around and go play. EA did the same thing. So there was things that I saw, glimpses of that I was like, I think I'm starting to see where E3 is going. It may never go away, and it may never it may never go away and not be a big news thing or a big streaming thing. But I do feel like especially this year, I felt like it's starting to evolve more towards, hey, this is like an E3 village, or this is E3 week here in LA. here's your map, and go to these places, go to these parties and press conferences.
Get out of LA.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have any, like, I would love to go to E3, but I don't have any burning desire to go to LA, because not only do I not have a burning desire, but I got a feeling that the one thing that I would get is something else burning, and that's my skin because of the sun. I mean, put it in like Chicago, or put it in, take it to New Orleans or somewhere like that, like where let people come to you. Like, don't do it in LA. LA is a long way away for some people, and I get that. So is Chicago for some people. So is New Orleans, but that gives more people more chances to come to it.
Well, more of a centralized level. That's a good idea. I would love to see it in Chicago. I think that would be awesome to see E3 in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And people forget, E3 went from one coast to the other. It used to be in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. I mean, if people can, I was way too young to remember it being in Atlanta. I always, knew it was in LA. I remember I watched a show on it or something. It was like, it started in Atlanta. And so it went from coast to coast. And, I'm like, Joe, maybe bring it together. Maybe, you get to go. Maybe get more people actually showing up instead of having to fly all the way over to LA to be able to get the East Coast people.
Or do a East Coast, West Coast type of thing. If more developers are wanting to announce later on, why not do like, hey, here's E3, this period of time, and then...
Well, PAX does it. I mean, PAX is becoming this big thing. PAX East, PAX West, PAX, Prime or whatever. They've been super successful with that. I mean, PAX is actually, in some senses of the word, maybe even bigger than E3 as far as the full effect of actually going and playing games. People go to PAX more. So yeah, definitely, that's a good idea. E3 East Coast, E3 West Coast, go on a traveling thing.
E3 people, if you listen to this, holler at your boy. I need to, pay me. I got some good ideas.
All right, guys.
I'll even like DJ or something. I mean, I'm a funny guy. Hey,
just keep your shirt on. That's all I ask.
Here's a joke. Okay, this would be how I would open my E3 East. I'd be like, hey, crowd, what's round on the outside and high in the middle?
What is it?
Oh, come on, dude. Think about it. What's round on the outside, high in the middle?
I don't know.
Ohio! That would get a good life, right?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man.
And
E3 is doomed.
E3, you holler at me, and you make me a DJ, and I promise that I would bring an LA Noire HD remake to PlayStation 4. I promise you that.
I just want to see a Yeti and Kojima variety show. I think at this point that would get me there.
Kojima, man, you got to do this. Put Minesweeper on the beach. Not only... No, Kojima, don't make him play it with his penis.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man. So
now we have the explicit tag.
This podcast is completely off the rails, and there's no surprise that Joe is driving this train.
We have explicit tag on the iTunes now.
I might actually have to beep you, man. I told you you'd be the first one, and was I not right?
You can beep me on the podcast, but you can't beep me on the YouTube show.
All right, man. Daniel, thanks for coming on, man. I know it's late, and this is really the only times we can all get together to do this, but it's been fun. And Joe, thanks for jumping on here. But that's going to be our wrap-up show for E3 2016. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully we'll get this up soon. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Monsters of Geek. Go visit our website, man. We have so many good writers there. Daniel's one of them. Joe's one of them. Everybody on this podcast has written for us, and some of the people that's not on the podcast. I'm sure there's an article there that you will love, and will definitely, you'll fall in love with because of what you love as far as geekdom goes. So go check out monstersofgeek.com. Check us all out on Facebook at Monsters of Geek or under Monsters of Geek blog. Go like us there. Subscribe to us right here on YouTube, Monsters of Geek blog as well. But yeah, that's it. So guys, you have anything else to say before we sign off?
No,
don't talk too much. Daniel, do you have anything else you want to say?
I just want to say thanks, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Please let me come back and talk with you all some more about video games. This is a blast. Thanks so much.
No problem, man. Daniel, thanks for being on. Joe, thanks for being on. You're not going to say any more. We are signing off. Yeah, that's it. So thanks for listening, and we are out.
Holla at your boy.
Oh, it's stopping. There it goes.